So if you're in the business of cold calls, one of the challenges that you're often going to face is when you get met, it's a good thing, but when you get met with technical questions that you don't know the answer to. At some point along your journey of cold calling, you're going to come across a whole suite of questions where you get asked something quite specific that you don't know the answer to. So what do you do to get around that so you can still get the appointment set? So first of all, I'd go back to first principles and say, that your inability to work around it is a function of not drilling how to manage these situations. So drilling is key because what you need is a series of ways to manage an objection, such as give me this information before we move forward. Now, what's interesting is that technical questions are actually buying signals. So they're very, very good things to have happen. So if you're doing well at the first section of a cold call where you can build rapport, you've worked on your script, you begin to get engagement, then what you'll then begin to, of course, suffer or struggle with is when you get asked specific technical questions. Now, at a practical level, there's two parts to this. Number one, we're working in the world where you just don't know the answer to the question. What sits underneath that is that you should know the answer to all of those questions, or at least have an ability to fact check or sense check. So that relates to your research, your prep, how many answers you've got to all of the possible questions that you could get documented. So you have at least an ability, and this is handle number one, to say, let me just double check because I've got the specifications or I've got an answer to that right in front of me. The product specialist team actually gave me the answer to that, so I can tell you what it is right now. Give me 1 second and I'll just double check. So you want to have an ability practically to be able to do that on a call. Of course, if you get even better with your prep, you don't even need to wait because you're already looking at your FAQ document when that question comes in. So this is, of course, in an ideal world where you've got the requisite information, you have all of the questions or the answers to the questions, but of course, we exist in non-ideal worlds. So then the question becomes, well, when I don't have access to that information, what do I do? And this is what you want to do. You want to, so option number one, as we've discussed, option number one is to have the answers to the technical questions. So go to the source of knowledge and get those answers. Option number two is to reinforce, if you're the appointment setter and then there's closers or the product specialist, you want to reinforce how the person you're going to refer them to has the answer to the question, but then revert back to the benefits being worthy of the wait. Because the objection you will face when you say, I will come back to you, and never say, and this is the second thing, never say, I don't know, because it implies that the company in some way, or the people or the proposition is in some way deficient. So you need to, if wherever you do catch yourself saying, I don't know, you need to say, I don't know, but I know who does. And that's the person I want to connect you with. And it's really great question that you've asked. So when you get trapped in what we call the feature trap, the spec trap, which you can often get intertwined in. So how many leads can I expect? What does this part of the product look like? How does it work with this particular API? You want to revert back to your series of rebuttals, which is, you know what, John, that's a fantastic question. It's actually exactly why I wanted you to talk to Martha. Martha has all the answers to the questions that you're asking and all of the questions that you didn't even know you wanted to ask. And the reason it's important you talk to her is because I'll be honest with you, there's a reason why we've been seeing these returns. There's a reason why I can say without a shadow of a doubt that you will get this XYZ benefit from the product. And then what you need to do is to have variations of that type of response. And then you need to map. So that would be an example of a response. But then the next logical step is say, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. But I would really like to get that on email before I actually proceed with the call. So that might be the classic rebuttal that you will then get. And you say, yeah, you know what? I totally agree. That makes a lot of sense. So what's your email? Da, 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 da. Amazing. I've got it. So what you want to do is to continue to get yes responses after you get a but. And then you want to build up to the same question. So when you're met with a but, can't, won't, don't, you want to be agreeable rather than defensive. So as a salesperson, you don't want to respond to but, what, but, can't, won't, don't with another but, can't, don't, won't, which be, I understand what you're saying, but I really think that you benefit from a call. you know what? I don't know. Again, I don't know if we'll be able to get you an email in time. You don't want to say things like this. These are all negative words that you don't want to use in phone calls because people use it as a proxy for lack. There's a deficiency or there's defense. So you want to avoid those actual responses, and you need to drill to learn under pressure to not use those responses. So what you can do in the other scenario, which is you say, great, this person has the answer. So people talk about features. You don't know the answer to the feature question. You remind them of the benefits. And then you build up the benefits enough to suggest or to imply that it is worthy of them to defer the answer to the benefits, or rather, defer the feature question up until the time you can get the benefit. And it's worthy of the wait. You know what? I'm going to save so much money that it's worthy for me to go to the call, even though I want to know this now, because I care more about the greater good, the why rather than the how, or the what, the outcome rather than the path. So that's what you want to do. Now, let's go specifically back to the sounds great, but I'd really like to actually receive everything on email because that's how we operate, or but this, but a call won't work for me really right now. So when you get an email request, what do you do? So again, it's about again, my more meta recommendation is really think about these situations and build strategies and tactics for it so you're able to deal with every variation, because they're often always a variation of the same thing. So the strategy with this would be to get the yes, saying absolutely, totally understand, George. So let me just take your email down. Amazing, brilliant. So just to confirm, the question that you have is XYZ. So you already got a yes, great. Here's your email. Yes, great. Here's the question. You know what? Whilst we're here, do you have any other questions actually? Come to think of it, that are also no. That's just it for now. Amazing. So what I'll do is I'll get Martha, our product specialist, send you an email across. And you know what? I'm just thinking you'll probably agree with me that sometimes it's more difficult to communicate the full value of something on email, if that makes sense, in terms of communicating the full benefit of, for example, your business or your restaurant, or obviously our product. I'm assuming you probably agree with that, that sometimes it's easier to speak than to write. So with that in mind, now that we're here, do you think I can just ask her to give you a quick call back to go through that feature question in specific detail, as well as tell you about everything else? What do you say? Because I'm just thinking in the end, what's going to happen? And this is where you visualize the alternative outcome. You're just going to go back and forth on email. It gets lost in your inbox. Maybe we think we're communicating the full value of our product, but there's something that gets lost in translation. Maybe you get busy. And as you can appreciate, that sometimes it's just easier to have a quick 2-minute chat. Does that make sense? And that will increase your rebuttal to appointment ratio, because then you circle back to making the same ask after you've got a subsequent series of yeses. Does this make sense, Aaron? So this is where the idea of don't hang up until you get a no 3 times comes up, because you've got to work back up to getting the no. But the quality of how many no's you can get on a call is your ability to manage a conversation, to go again and actually drive yeses. So a key metric you can optimize for, if you're listening, if you're a cold caller, you'll know a quality salesperson if they can get more than 1 no on a call. Because that person has the ability to persevere in spite of a no. And no's, just for reference, are anything that isn't a quality booked appointment. And most people give up in the face of a rebuttal because the level of your preparation does not meet the requirement of the actual cold call. So, as I said, ensure that where you can, you get the technical answers to your question, to the questions. Where you can't, and there will always be things that you can't get or situations that come back, when you get caught in a feature trap, revert back to the benefits of the product and speak up to the benefits to make the time delay, the cost of not getting the answer right now in terms of the feature question, worthy of the outcome, because that's the trade-off. Where you still get a no, let's do it on email, you then be accepting of that. You aim to get a couple of strategic yeses, and then you go again back for the original premise, which is to get the booked appointment. And you find ways to work back up to it. And aim to get 3 no's before you put the phone down. Now, to do that, if you're cold calling, takes time, takes skill, takes charisma, and takes knowledge of how to deal with objections. But if you aim for 3 no's, if you outline the benefits more than the features, and then if you get really skilled down the line, you can combine technical knowledge with the benefits. And that's where you can weave it all in together. But do this, work on this, and you'll be able to deal with any of those situations that come up where you get asked a technical question that you don't know the answer to. And this is how you can generate more appointments.